Hey everyone, Carrie Beck here with Homeschool Coffee Break, where we help you stop the overwhelm, gain some confidence, and take a homeschool coffee break. Hey, maybe even taking a coffee break at the beach. Wouldn't that be nice? We're getting close to summer. But today, what I want to talk to you about is um, finding freedom in your homeschool, which also would help you be able to take a coffee break and quit stressing out about everything. Um, so let's talk about that. A lot of times we are homeschooling to get away from the school system, and yet we just bring it all right back in. We feel chained. We feel sort of imprisoned. We feel like we've got to check off all the boxes, go down that conveyor belt, and do what everyone else is doing. Well, today I am here to tell you you do not need to do that anymore. We're going to talk about three types of education and which ones can actually help you find freedom in your homeschool to be able to homeschool and teach the things that are important to you. So let's talk about this first. What type of education are you giving your children right now? Which one is best for your family? And it may look different from other ones. I would have you write it down. And if you're not sure, I would do this. I would think about, what do you want your child to look like when he graduates from high school? I mean, do you want him prepared for a job? Do you want him to go to college? Do you want him to have a work ethic and responsibility? What kind of character? What's going on in their head? Are they ready to go off and get married? There's a lot of things. And what kinds of things do you want them to know? For us, we wanted, this is very simple and is probably not what you're thinking. We wanted our children to be able to think critically and biblically. That was the number one thing, because we felt like if they could think critically for themselves and use the Bible, I don't have my glasses, put on the lens of scripture and see everything, and that would give them the ability to make wise decisions and live life for Jesus. So think about that first. Then what kinds of things do you need to do in your homeschool to be able to do that? And do you have the freedom right now to be able to accomplish those goals that you have? So let's talk for a second. I'm going to talk about, some of y'all have heard this, but I do want to relate what I'm saying to freedom. Freedom is so important to me. And so the first type of education is a public education. This is where you are going to teach your kids what to think. And pretty much that's it. Um, they get on that little conveyor belt. They go to station one. They do the same thing as everyone else. They get tested, go to station two. All the stations, there's 12 of them. Hop off that conveyor belt and go to the next conveyor belt, the job conveyor belt. Um, that is a place that if you want your kids to go to college or get a job, follow that model. But you will be chained to the government's expectations. You'll be chained to a textbook expectation. You will not have the freedom to pick and choose. Now, I'm not saying that going to college or getting a job is a bad thing. For us, it was bigger than that. But if that's really all you and your kids, and I would encourage you to have your kids in on this conversation, especially teenagers, if all they really want to do is go to college and get a job, follow that model, that you will be able to get there. But you don't have freedom to go and educate according to your faith or your values, that type of thing. Next is what I call professional education. We go past what to think. Now we're going to talk about when to think. We call this a competitive conveyor belt. And you're all together and you're preparing for a career, basically, profession of some sort of career. And you are taught what to think in different situations. And if you're in accounting, this is what you do when this happens. If you are in construction, this is what you do when the water starts leaking or whatever. You're just taught what to do when something happens, when to think. The goal is a career, profession, that type of thing. Again, you are chained to the university's expectation, a tech school's expectation, someone else's expectation. You're not really having freedom to be able to learn what is important to you. And then the last one is leadership education. And if you're around me, y'all know that May is Leadership Education Month. When it comes to me, how to homeschool my child, homeschool coffee break, we are all about, let's talk about leadership education. So this is where we teach our kids how to think. The goal is to give them an education that teaches them how to use this little noggin up here. All right, so that they can have an impact and an influence as they grow up. And you may be going, well, my kid's probably not going to be president of the United States. No, but I would say most all of our children will grow up to be dads and moms. They will need to lead their children, lead their family well. So when you do this, we have a whole different way of educating because all of a sudden the child, we want them to take ownership and leadership in their education. And so let's talk about what this would look like. We will give our kids opportunities to enjoy learning by allowing them to choose what they're interested in. All right. And as they do that, we want to develop them to be leaders for life because they will have begin to choose what they are interested in. So they hopefully will love, and if they don't love it, they can like learning. And we're going to give them the tools of learning. So there are different tools to learning. That was actually last week. If you want to go in and listen to the last podcast, we talked about one tool of learning that I think is so important and can really, you can use it from really like 5 years old to high school. So go back and listen to that. This leadership education also gives you a chance for your kids to learn how to think critically, think biblically. I've already talked about that. Gives them opportunities to grow in decision making. If they are thinking biblically and critically, hopefully they will make wise decisions for those around them and for themselves. They don't have to just follow what someone's telling them. You see, public education, you are following what the teacher tells you to do. Professional education, you are following what the system is telling you to do. Leadership education, we want freedom. We want our kids to grow up to be leaders and they're not following and being dependent on someone else. Teens need to take ownership and leadership in their education. If your teens are just doing what you tell them to do, you need to rethink it because you are training them up to not be free, to not be able to think for themselves if all they do is follow you. Now, I'm not saying I think there is a place that we need to follow those around us at times, but overall, we don't give our kids the tools to think critically, make wise decisions, and lead others well. How can we do this? One of the best things that you can do, besides love of learning and tools of learning and critical thinking skills, is you, mom, you need to model. They're going to copy you, whatever you're doing. And if you're just doing textbook education, they're going to think, oh, education is filling out a multiple choice test or going through a curriculum and checking off the boxes. So, moms, you need to model your love of learning. They need to see you excited about learning. Go to the beach and learn something about the beach. You need to be using the tools of learning, meaning you're educating yourself and you need to model that for them. You need to be reading or listening to audiobooks. I'm not a big audiobook person. I am a big podcast person, so I've learned that way. But I think it's important that we are reading and our kids. And if you have little kids and you're falling asleep like I did in bed when I was reading, read aloud. Because then your kids are seeing you read and you get excited and you can talk about the book. Have discussions. Mom, you lead a discussion. Moms, you need to help them make decisions. When they are a teenager, they should be making decisions on their own. And even if they flop, you as parents are going to walk with them and help them get back up. If you wait till they go off to college or go off to get a job or go off and get married, a lot of times that's when they rebel and there's so much freedom out there, they don't even know how to handle their freedom. So begin to give them freedom while they're at home. I think that this model gives you the freedom to educate in what is important to your family, to your faith, to your values, and to your interests as well. So public education, when to think, follow the teacher, follow the government. Professional education, when to think, that's you're following a system. Leadership education, you are leading and you are not just following what someone else is telling them to do. Now, if you are listening to this about the time that it is published, I do have a resource for you. It is called our Homeschool Freedom Bootcamp. We go deep into how to get freedom in your homeschool. It is a 5-day boot camp. So there's a lot there. It is 1 hour a day plus a 10 or 15-minute mindset minute if you would like to come to that. And that's all about mom's minds. And let's get it straight so that you can help your kids. So it's 5 days, $15. Uh, some of you are like, why can't it go free? Well, I do have to pay for some of the things that we use and the software and that type of thing. $15 for 5 days, that's $3 a day for this boot camp. And I believe you will walk away with a plan in place of what you're going to do to get freedom in your homeschool. Wherever you're listening to, just go to the link below and it will take you right there and you can sign up as well. So thank you so much for spending time with me. I am Carrie Beck with Homeschool Coffee Break. We'll talk to you next time.